Right, hello and welcome to Podcasting is Praxis. It's yet another cultural episode, and this time we're discussing everyone's favourite space adventure, Star Trek. With me tonight we've got special guest Sinan Kose.
Oh, well that was a good attempt. Hi everyone.
We've got one of the Jameses.
Yeah, well, you know, one of the Jameses. There are many Jameses, but I'm the James of these episodes at least.
And we've got McLovin.
Great.
Oh, brilliant. Aye. It's happening.
Right. So, we're here to talk about Star Trek, which is obviously set in a post-scarcity communist, like, utopia, sort of.
Up for debate.
Citation needed.
Yeah. And is weirdly popular with chuds everywhere.
And apparently weirdly popular with our listeners, given that I put a poll out and it came first in the things we wanted to hear us do takes on, so...
Yeah, but democracy doesn't work, though. We've established that.
Oh, true.
So anyway, Star Trek, everyone's favourite space show about wizards. Who wants to start us off with an interesting take?
Just like that.
Alright.
Sure, fuck it, I'll go first then. Why not? The Prime Directive is the zenith of liberal ideology.
Hard agree. That's correct.
David, why don't you explain what the Prime Directive is for any of our listeners who are dazed and confused?
Yeah, the Prime Directive is a recurring story beat that comes up where it's basically a device around which an episode of Star Trek is formed, where the ship comes across a civilization that isn't spacefaring. It's not sufficiently advanced enough because they don't have faster than light travel. That's the mark of it. As soon as you get faster than light travel, the Prime Directive no longer applies. If you don't have it, then it's like a non-interference thing. So it's like the space version of coming across a native tribe somewhere, and you're not supposed to interact with them in any way because you may affect their development and taint their society.
Sounds like a perfectly reasonable rule. I don't see a problem with that.
It does, doesn't it?
I mean, to be fair, half the time they break the rule, they end up being worshipped as gods, so it might be a good idea to not break the rule sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to say, so once they've got, like, faster than light travel, then you're allowed to regime change them.
That's right.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. It's bullshit, basically. It's the foreign policy 101 for the Federation. And it's shite because half of them don't fucking listen to it, and half of them hide behind it as an excuse for just not bothering because it would be too much fucking hassle.
Too much paperwork.
Yeah, when you put it like that, it kind of is. It is about the paperwork, isn't it?
It's always some cunt behind a desk screaming at the captain, "No, you can't interfere, remember the Prime Directive." So aye, it's purely that.
I mean, aren't there a bunch of episodes where they're just having trials for a bunch of these things? So
yeah, there is, yeah.
Well, it's also it's worth pointing out that when we're talking about Star Trek's obviously a big thing, and so the Prime Directive really came into its own with the Next Generation, it seems. In the original series, there was a Prime Directive, but Kirk didn't seem to give a fuck. There's even an episode which I actually caught clips of recently because I was looking this up. And he's reading the Constitution of the United States to, savage tribes people, essentially. Straight on in, give no fuck, let's just uplift these people kind of thing. But it rolls around to Picard, and suddenly things get complicated. Suddenly it's, this planet has got a bunch of volcanoes that might be about to blow up. Maybe we could figure out what the problem is and stop the volcanoes blowing up. And, they won't know, so... And that is held up as an ethical dilemma. We can, we can save them without them knowing that we exist or that we saved them, because we've got no idea the apocalypse is impending. But that would be interfering. So,
let me read you a little quote. This is Captain Picard in The Next Generation.
Is this one of his speeches?
No, it's quite short for him. The Prime Directive is not just a set of rules; it is a philosophy. And a very correct one. History has proven again and again that whenever mankind interferes with a less developed civilization, no matter how well-intentioned that interference may be, the results are invariably disastrous.
Yeah. Well-intentioned's doing a lot of fucking heavy lifting there.
It really fucking is. Like, the only context anyone has for when you're watching it, out of the small handful of episodes which are Prime Directive focused, the only frame of reference you've really got there is colonialism.
I don't know, as you were reading that quote, I was just picturing, like, you know, Jean-Luc Picard giving the speeches in the background, this footage from, like, the Second Iraq War playing, like, just, you know, playing out behind him. Which is ironic, because as far as I'm aware, all of The Next Generation was done and dusted before the Second Iraq War. It was done before 2003, wasn't it? Yeah.
Oh, well, before that, yeah.
But, like, it definitely... It does do that kind of thing where it's just taking on face value that a lot of the interference... I mean, we can come back to less developed civilizations and that kind of thing in a minute, right? Mm. But it does kind of take for granted that all of the justifications that have been given for empire, colonialism, for just fucking around in other people's backyards, it's always been sincere. Whereas maybe if you tried to do some kind of interference that wasn't rooted in that kind of perspective, it might actually go okay. I don't know. Just seems like a thought worth considering, maybe.
Yeah, it keeps cropping up, and it like we said, it's one of those ones where, like, Kirk didn't give a fuck. Like, he was quite happy to just do what he liked.
I was going to say, the original series, they were incredibly busy dealing with all the wizards they met. Like, they didn't have time for philosophical points beyond, what if a wizard...
Or a Greek god, you got to remember that. I mean, they can run into Greek gods out there in space. That's a well-known thing.
I mean, space is a big place. Who knows what you run into?
Mostly wizards.
Zeus just got tired one day and decided he'd move Olympus off to, I don't know, fucking Andromeda or something.
I mean, it's not... They have at least one wizard in the Next Generation, don't they? But he's like a regular character rather than
Q,
yeah, rather than just, like, turning up as a different, like, you know, a different wizard every week. Because the original series, they've got, like, the wizard who thinks he's, like, an Earth noble from the 1800s or something. They've got the child wizard who doesn't know how to behave, and then his parents, the floating gas clouds, turn up to bollock him at the end.
What is this show?
Just various other, like, wizards that turn up, and Kirk has to reason with them because you can't use force against wizards. Even in the films, the first film is, what if the Voyager probe came back and was a wizard? And then I think the final frontier is, what if a wizard pretended to be God?
Yep.
And then in the middle, somewhere in the middle, they've got that one where Kirk gets completely Spock-pilled.
Okay, I don't recognise that one. What one's that?
The Search for Spock.
Shit, yeah, okay, no, right, yeah, alright, sure. Spock-pilled, wow, I can feel
it's always so gratifying when I have to immediately explain a joke.
I'm sorry.
That's
sorry.
how you know it landed, right?
Yeah.
The thing is, like, when you said it, I was like, there could be a few different things that refers to. Because, like, let's be honest, Kirk is hard for Spock. Like, absolutely.
Oh, I mean, yeah.
Okay, that one didn't really land very well either. So
I was just thinking through that, because, like, I watched a few of the films before we did this, because originally we were just going to talk about the films, and then we realised that you can't talk about the films without talking about the fucking actual TV source material.
Yeah.
Like, the feel of the original series films is so vastly different to everything that comes after. And not just in, like, the kind of genre and style of them, but, like, the way they're written. There's, like, 2, maybe 3 characters that you actually are supposed to give a fuck about. It's all Kirk and Spock, and maybe McCoy.
Well, it's also, like, wasn't the first of the Star Trek films a commercial flop? Am I remembering that right?
Yeah, it didn't do that well, I'm pretty sure.
Have any of them done well, really?
Yeah, like, a few of the Next Generation ones did okay, like the, First Contact, was it? One with Picard, with, what's his face who plays him? That's really bad. Patrick Stewart having, like, a midlife crisis and deciding he wants to go roaring about on a Dune buggy with his best mate.
Oh, no, that wasn't First Contact, that was Nemesis. That was the last one of them.
Oh, so it was. Well, I mean, First Contact was kind of kicking it off because he's playing an action hero in that. You know,
First Contact's the one where the farmer from Babe invents space travel.
Yes.
Oh, Christ.
Famous inventor of the Hoggett engine.
Is it the same actor?
It is.
God damn it is, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I will never unsee that ever again.
Oh yeah, the difference between those films is so fucking stark, like unreal. Because the Next Generation films are like, they go between trying to be, they don't know what they are. They're either an ensemble film or they're a Picard character study film. Like it's one, it's just him, or it's all of the cast that they're focusing on, and quite badly because of that, because they keep jumping back and forth between the two. It's almost like he's the A story and they're the B story.
It's kind of consistent with how they filmed the Next Generation TV show, though, because that very much was like, I mean, it was pick a character, they're the A story, and then everyone else fills in as B stories, essentially. And more often than not, the character was Picard or occasionally Riker. That seemed to be where it kind of came together. And then
I think they did quite a good job in the Next Generation when they were doing that kind of stuff, and they were doing like kind of character study episodes. They were quite good at sharing it out, like, because there was quite a lot of Worf episodes. There was quite a lot of fucking Geordie episodes where he gets really creepy with that fake woman on the holodeck.
Oh, Jesus,
yeah, Geordie can't fuck. There was even plenty of Dr. Crusher episodes in which she does fuck a ghost. Just, yeah, that was quite well spread out. Like, other series were really bad for it. Voyager specifically was fucking awful for it.
Oh, I've got fucking comments on Voyager, by the way.
Oh no, can't wait to talk about Voyager.
There was constant streams of let's do a 7 of 9 episode, let's do another 7 of 9 episode, let's do another 7 of 9. It's just on and on and on and on. On the plus side though, that does kind of leave space for the Doctor episodes, which were really good.
If you want to talk about Star Trek's relationship to liberalism as well, 7 of 9 was responsible for the Barack Obama presidency, wasn't
it? Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh shit! Now hang on. This was a real life thing, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah. Someone string this out again, because I can't remember exactly how it goes, but...
It was something to do with her then husband was taking her to sex clubs, if I remember right. And I think, wasn't he the guy who would have beaten Obama to become a senator from Chicago?
Yeah, Jack Ryan, yeah.
Yeah, but then that didn't happen because of the scandal with her divorcing him, and so Barack Hussein Obama, real name Barry, got in. Like, is that right? Am I remembering that right?
She was working so much on Star Trek because once they added like Borg in like hot pants, and everyone, all the nerds really liked that character for reasons that weren't entirely clear.
Nothing wrong with it. Don't shame people.
They wanted her on every episode, so she had to work away from home too much, and that was what led to the divorce, which is what led to the scandal, which is what led to Barack Obama becoming a senator.
There's also like, we're missing a key fact, which is that one of the producers wanted to bang her, like the actress.
Yeah.
And also the actress who played Janeway, whose name I can never remember for love nor money, ended up being incredibly jealous of her taking the spotlight away from her, and like made being on set incredibly like uncomfortable for everyone, in fact, but especially for what's her name now? Because it's not Jerry Ryan anymore. It's
I don't know. If I'm honest, I don't know.
So she made it really uncomfortable for Jerry Springer, and as a consequence of that,
as far as I know, she's still going by Jerry Ryan.
Is she? I could have sworn she changed it, but maybe I'm just like making shit up. It's not that important.
Doing some fake news on the podcast.
Oh, fake news on a podcast? What is this, True Anon?
Yeah.
Oh.
Credit to True Anon, I don't think they're fake news. They're just creative news. There's a difference.
Yeah.
Creative news.
It's a very marginal but important difference.
Mm.
Yeah, like, to go back to the Prime Directive stuff, and actually, as we're on Voyager, so this is the episode, the Omega Directive. Basically what happens is, the ship detects a specific molecule that's extremely fucking dangerous, and would destroy fucking space travel for light years. And no matter, the Prime Directive doesn't apply, you need to get it, you need to capture it, and you need to destroy it, and make sure that it can't be made again. So really, what they did was they canonised Iraq War 2.
Christ, yes, they absolutely did. That's exactly what that is.
Mm-hmm. It's so barefaced, it's unreal. But this is what I mean. It's it's liberal as fuck because it's only there to do the whole noble savage bit, and then when it's not, it's because direct interference out of fear.
It's really, like, here's the problem. We all agree with this take, I think. Because, like, I don't know, is there anyone here who wants to seriously argue that not uplifting people who are, suffering under easily curable diseases with antibiotics, for example, like, that's a moral good just to let them fucking wither and die for the sake of some nebulous idea of social progress? Because that's what it is at the end of the day. It's basically going, well, the society is more important in the long term than any individual life within it. Which is, no, fuck you. That's not the social contract at all. It's not even a social contract under utilitarian ideologies, arguably like communism, arguably. So
it's full bullshit, yeah. Like, I mean, there's plenty of episodes where, like, usually, like, doctor-related episodes, so the doctor of the ship ends up going somewhere and it's an absolute shithole, and everybody's sick and they really need help, and then the post-scarcity society just kind of goes, we'll come back to them maybe, and then you never know if they do or not, which you can only assume they don't.
I mean, the problem is, like, it's hard not to be completely and utterly contemptuous of it, and at the same time, though, it is kind of difficult to try and, like, to propose an alternative. Like, how do you go about it in a way that doesn't necessarily cause more harm than good? I can sort of, like, this is the problem, it's a seductive ideology, because it basically says, oh, the problem's too hard. The problem's too hard, you have to leave it alone. The problem's too hard, leave it alone. It's better to be morally pure and blameless than it is to try and fuck up, essentially.
I mean, that's it in a nutshell, yeah. The only alternative is, like, to just... And this is basically what the show is. The show does, to some degree, and it's inconsistent with it, but it does show, like, oh, well, if it's a Prime Directive episode, the Prime Directive is probably going to be violated, and the captain of the ship's going to step in and say, no, we should help. And they do help because the morality wins through. But it's the fact that this society itself is actually founded on, like, and works around this being the prime, the most important thing. Don't help people if they're lesser.
Like, it would, I don't know, like, it would be easy to kind of fix it and basically say that a prime directive is like some internationally negotiated treaty kind of thing, where it's like, we've agreed with the Klingon Empire, with the Romulans, with the whatever, that none of us will fuck with people who haven't yet achieved warp power. And it's like, it's our one thing we can agree on, and every time you violate it, you risk provoking, like, war or something like that, so that there's actually a bit of, like, moral stakes to it. And it's the idea is like, oh, we'd love to go and help, but if we start going to help them, then, the Klingons are going to invade their own ones, and, they'd be like, you could do something with that, but that involves actually having to, have a fucking ethical principle about it. I guess.
Yeah.
The Prime Directive is actually a gamer thing, isn't it? It's like, you don't boost those, like, lesser societies because they won't get the achievement for penicillin unless they develop it themselves.
That's it. Yep. Can confirm.
Oh, it's bullshit. Like, and with Deep Space Nine, because it's orbiting Bajor, and Bajor's not part of the Federation, like, that the planet's a kind of third party and everything, and they go into a civil war at one point, and the Federation, who occupies this station, just says, we're out, we're not taking anything to do with this. At the same time, there's another race, the Cardassians, who are just fucking bearing down and getting involved and getting fucking mucky with it. And Sisko, the commander of the station, says, the Cardassians may involve themselves in other people's civil wars, but we don't. As if that's like, oh good, you've taken the moral high ground, like, pick a side.
Yeah. Deep Space Nine is definitely the best of the shows, by the way. I'm going to throw that out.
Oh, far, yeah, no contest.
I think there'd be broad agreement on that. Deep Space
and
Nine.
the Federation is Keith Starmer.
Oh god. But Keith's not going to have post scarcity, is he? He's going to cause scarcity if he somehow wins.
That's a very valid point. You'll not catch him making any decisions, though.
For a real life example of the Prime Directive that you're all aware of, see those reporters we've seen on the boats?
Oh,
God.
That's the Prime Directive in action. That's
Jesus
what that is.
Fucking Christ.
God, I'm just...
No fucking lies detected.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was who I just got my 12-hour ban from Twitter for shouting at.
something something, the righteous man, something something, like, oh god. You know, it kind of is, well, because literally they had them bailing out the fucking boat, you know, sailing across the channel, bailing out a boat with some kind of like plastic container, and the news crews just blithely commenting on it. And, like, just, Jesus fucking Christ.
Did anyone from the Federation come forward when the Prime Directive was criticised, though, and accuse the people, like, saying that you should maybe help people who are in clear distress of being racist?
Well, see, this is the thing that gets me, like, my argument, I suppose, David, can I do my take? Because it kind of segues into this, right?
Yeah, go for it, yeah.
So, my argument is that I agree, you can frame it as though Star Trek is like a liberal version of a utopia. I don't think it is. I think the culture from the Ian M. Banks novels, may he rest in peace, they're a liberal utopia. And I can defend that if anyone wants to at me about it.
I might later.
Yeah. The Federation is a small C conservative utopia, but it's not immediately obvious until you lift the hood and start to kind of pay attention to the stuff that's under the bonnet, so to speak. And it shows itself in lots of little ways. So there's the fact that they pay lip service to this Prime Directive, but then violate it all the time. It's like an ongoing thing. That's conservative as fuck. But there's the subtle things, but you start looking at Federation itself, and it's like, hang on, why is it that the Enterprise and the Enterprise ships, why are they all, if this is a planetary Federation, why are they predominantly human-dominated? And why do we hear stories of there being ships which are, oh yeah, there's a ship that's mostly crewed by Vulcans? It's like, well, that's interesting. Why is this organization, Starfleet, why does it have ships which seem to be majority dominated by one, for want of a better word, ethnicity or like species? Why is that a thing? That's a bit
I
curious.
can answer that, actually. Vulcans only fuck once every 7 years, so there's not as many of them.
Yeah. Also, I was going to say, my take was kind of going to be similar to that, only you stole my thunder because it was going to be that the Federation's a fascist utopia.
Well, I mean, I think we're probably dancing around the same fucking point, to be totally honest, right? Like, it's the way you can slice them and they all come up very similar. But while I'm on a roll here, because this will segue into yours then, because here's the thing, why don't we actually see any civil protest, or why don't we see any democracy in the Federation? Yep. Why doesn't that, we hear about it a little bit in like DS9, which is one of the reasons DS9 is like the better of the different series, because it's more a deconstruction. But you don't actually see it. You don't see any political debate within the Federation. You don't see it kind of, talked about or suggested. It's just like, oh, we've solved all our political problems. Political problems were a technical problem. We've now solved them. All our problems are no longer intra-political. It's no longer internal to ourselves. It's all inter-political. It's between the Federation and outside forces who are all clearly bloodthirsty warmongers or scheming Machiavellians or arch-capitalists. Like, it's always external. It seems there's no culture of dissent. There's no properly articulated counterculture. And so you don't get any kind of instance of hearing about people protesting against, like, the Prime Directive. The Prime Directive lets another fucking planet blow up, and there's no protest. People going, we should have helped them. Instead, it's just, like, accepted orthodoxy.
You see how difficult it is when there's an election in the present day to get everyone to get off their asses and go and vote. Imagine trying to do that if the people who you need to go and vote had access to holodecks and were just too busy wanking.
Like, I do have a subtake here, which is just a bit of a shitpost, which is that holodecks are the apotheosis of incel culture. But I think it's self-explanatory, to be honest.
I mean, there's like at least 2 Geordie LaForge episodes that confirm that take completely, yeah.
Like, I don't know. I don't think there's much more to be said about that. It's just the very idea of, like, I mean, again, DS9, the better show, because it does actually go into it. It has, like, some scumbag tries to get, what's his name? The Ferengi guy. Quark, yeah. Okay.
The best character.
He's pretty good. He's not quite as good as the Cardassian Taylor,
yes,
but he's definitely up there. But yeah, no, we have an episode where he is offered a lot of money to try and get one of the other main cast members, whose name I can't remember at all. She's the Bajoran one. They try to get him to make a holodeck program of her so some other dude can fuck it, essentially.
Oh,
and
my God.
Yeah, and it turns out eventually, like, he keeps trying these wacky schemes to get her to go on the holodeck, but it's a character point that she doesn't use the holodeck. Why? Who knows? Anyway, and eventually he gives up and just hacks her personnel file and biometrics on the station. The guy in charge of security finds out about it, and rather than immediately pull him up, he goes to her first and goes, "You should be aware that this guy's hacked all of your data." And she says, "Oh, really? Well, I think I know what it might be for." And so essentially they get their revenge by, rather than bringing him to justice or anything, instead, after he's made her program, they hack it and change it to be Quark. So that when the dude who's about to pay him goes to use it and is getting ready to fuck her, the veil parts and it's Quark who's coming on to him. And it's all played up for laughs rather than
I was just going to say, it's always a hilarious triumph when you solve a violation of consent with wacky hijinks.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Yeah.
So holodecks, incels, apotheosis confirmed. Don't at me anymore. We've just proved it.
To be fair, I think that was pretty much bang on. So,
but to bring it back though, the Federation is essentially a political monoculture that has its ideal of integration is to essentially have enclaves of unitarian kind of ethnic kind of species identity that have a few other outsiders in for colour, for texture. Not any attempt at serious rapport or kind of mainstream integration. It's not really a thing. And all of their decisions, all of their actions are driven by maintaining their status quo. It's not about improving things for the better. It's not about kind of intruding. And the Prime Directive, the Prime Directive, I honestly think, is not driven so much by a desire to, avoid causing harm, so much as it is a desire to remain blameless and to remain kind of pure in that sense, which is a bit lib, but it's also very small C conservative. Or you don't want to go messing with this stuff. Where will it end? If you start giving children free school meals, where will it end? This kind of shit. It feels more like that to me. But there are darker interpretations you can take of it, which leads us to... So Star Trek is fascist.
yes. Well, kind of. It is something of a fascist utopia. So that the point that you made where you're saying there are the aliens in these societies for texture, it always strikes me as weird that the Federation exists for so long, and so many of the episodes are about, oh wow, these aliens who have been members of the Federation since it was founded are so strange, I can't wait to learn more about them. And I'm like, surely if it was an well-integrated, democratic, proper, people like to say Star Trek is a communist utopia of some sort, in some way. I've seen those memes where they're where it's Waterworld versus Star Trek, and it's libertarian future, communist future, right? And, I'm like, well, surely if that was the case, we wouldn't need to learn about the Vulcans having an intense bout of horniness every 7 years, each series of the show. Okay, I guess in Enterprise it was okay because it was pre-Federation, but you shouldn't need to relearn that point over and over again. But there's also so there's no internal conflict that's displayed, except the Maquis who sort of tried to become independent from the Federation. I'm summarizing because it's been ages since I've watched that particular bit of the show.
Oh,
but,
shit, that comes up in DS9 and then in Voyager, doesn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think in Voyager it's the second in command guy who's a Maquis. But
what was his name again?
Chakotay.
The incredibly lazy kind of racialized stereotype of a First Nations person.
Yep.
Oh yeah, the guy they got on to do the research and all that kind of stuff to help flesh out the character and stuff. Total fraud. Had no fucking clue what he was talking about, and they just took it all as golden. Fucking hell.
Yeah, you'd think you'd double check that. But there's also the fact that the Federation. So there are the rebooted films, and it's referenced in the shows as well. It's Section 31, isn't it? It's the Federation Black Ops, who are doing all of these strange things, like trying to instigate wars constantly, or I think sterilize entire planets or some ridiculous stuff like that. It's Rick and Morty stuff, but it's done in Star Trek, so people seem to take it vaguely seriously. That's not really a well, it is utopian in one way, I guess. If your utopia is you get to decide who gets to continue living and who doesn't get to continue living. But it's an incredibly dark... I feel like as the universe expanded from the original series, it just became more fascist. I don't know if that's because the world gradually became shitter as time went on, but it does seem like the Federation kept, as its lore got fleshed out, kept on becoming much more of a, from small c conservative, probably to much more harder right fascist kind of structures.
Well, as an example, actually, that backs up your point, one of the better episodes in Next Generation, The Measure of a Man.
Oh, yeah.
So that's the one where basically some scientist wants to study Data, the android, and he wants to take him apart, but he doesn't technically have any rights because he's a synthetic life form. He's been built, he's not been born. So he's a kind of legal grey area. And he basically says, no, I'm going to take him apart. Picard says, no, you're not. And so they have a trial over it. But the trial is adjudicated by, like, some fucking admiral of the area or whatever. Picard is the defence lawyer, in effect. And then because they don't have someone handy to do fuck my god, what's the word again?
Prosecution? That's
the word.
It's not quite the right term for this, but yeah.
Yeah, it's not prosecution, but yeah, the other side of it, the non-defence. Riker has to step up because he's the next ranking officer, and it's like this is a human rights trial or a species rights trial, I suppose, being conducted by the military on all sides, including the adjudication of it.
Well,
like, that's fascist fuck.
Yeah, well, see, there's a fundamental contradiction that's at the heart of this. And, like, okay, so one of the points we're dancing around is that this is all just reflective of the fact it's, there's a lots of constraints of the medium. Like, why do we constantly have to be reintroduced to the Vulcans having all the strange sex stuff? It's because every new season has new viewers, and essentially the TV show wants to bring people up to speed, and the writers are pretty lazy, But in the same way, Star Trek is a reflection of American culture. And at the core, it's got this quasi-military organization, Starfleet, which has explicitly militaristic kind of ranks and structures. And that's seen in a very Starship Troopers kind of way as being like, you want to make something of yourself, you want to be a citizen, then you have to go into Starfleet, essentially, is kind of the implication. That really comes up to the fore in like Deep Space Nine. It's like really played up quite hard. And you have this thing where it's like, okay, so this is the body that de facto is the backbone of the Federation because it's running around doing everything, and yet it's organized along kind of military lines. It uses kind of military law, as you're pointing out, David, to decide things like human rights cases potentially, or sentience rights cases, whatever. Like, that is the central contradiction. You can't in any way, shape or form claim it's some kind of communist, future if it's fundamentally based around a militaristic, like, organ like that. It doesn't work.
See, as well, I was going to say about Section 31 and stuff, a lot of the times they sort of use secret intelligence services as villains in Star Trek, but they never sort of they always sort of grudgingly reach the conclusion that, well, they're a necessary evil. Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah, we need to do the odd regime change. That's the cost of like having a peaceful utopia. But if you want to see Star Trek go full fash, they are actually doing a Section 31 spin-off show, I think.
Oh, good. Oh, yeah. Can't wait to be proven right by that.
Yeah. I imagine it's just going to be like the Hawaii Five-O reboot, but in space.
No, it'll probably be like that British drama Spooks, was it called?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I watched like 2 episodes of that. One because I was like, all right, I'll see what it's like then. And then I went, holy fucking shit, this is actually making me mad. And I wasn't an anarchist or anything at this point. I was just looking at it going, this is bullshit. And then I watched the second episode because I couldn't believe what I'd just seen. I was like, okay, maybe that's just a bad episode that's weird. Like, because I've heard this was getting praised in a lot of like papers and stuff. So,
oh yeah, it was big.
And then I watched it. I was like, oh no, actually they are holding up that performing extrajudicial, extraordinary rendition and framing a guy as being a paedophile is appropriate justice for this pre-crime that he committed because he was planning to do a terrorist plot. Like, that was a thing in the show. And I was just like, are you kidding me? So they get this guy because he's planning to do something. He's not done something. He's planning to do something. And so the way they handle it with diplomacy is to frame him as being a paedophile and then get him extraordinary rendition to Egypt, extra legally.
Yeah, I mean, we're getting a little bit off topic, but how far back do you think you have to go before, like, you know, cop shows, and I use the term cop to include, like, spies and whatever else.
Aye.
How far back do you think you have to go before cop shows, like, aren't just propaganda for, oh, you could be killed at any moment by lurking, like, terrorists and criminals, and the only people that can save you are the cop who breaks all the rules and throws due process out of the window. Like, were they going around like clobbering suspects and framing them in Dixon of Dock Green and stuff like that?
Yeah, they've pretty much all been, apart from one show that I know of, which has vanished off the face of the earth, and you'll understand why in a second. It was produced by, I want to say, the BBC or Channel 4. It was one of the two of them. It was in the 90s, and it was called The Cops, right? And it had full police cooperation for the first season, and then none of the remaining seasons. And the reason is, it shows them as they are, because the opening shot is some lassie doing drugs and partying at a nightclub all the way through the night, and then she gets to the morning and she goes, oh shit, I gotta go to work. And she gets into the locker room and she's a cop. And that's the setup for the show, essentially. And it's just showing you, like, a very raw view of all the shit they dealt with. So they're doing good shit, like they're breaking up domestics, and they're talking down a suicide, and then talking down a suicide unsuccessfully, and it shows you how fucked up the cop is by that, because he genuinely wanted to talk the guy down. He didn't want to see the guy jump off a car park. But it's also showing you them doing all the other shit, like planting drugs on someone to fit him up because he, like, ran away and the partner chasing him had a heart attack, and just lots of petty shit, and, like, actually corrupt cops as well. And, you know, for the first season, it was all based on stories that the police themselves gave them. And then that went out, and it got nominated for a few awards, didn't win any mysteriously, didn't get any further support from the police for later seasons, and just has vanished off the face of the earth. Like, they released it on VHS, and it's a good show. This is the thing, it's a genuinely good TV. Vanished off the face of the earth. I had to wire money to a guy in Israel to burn it to DVD and post it to me in order to get to watch, like, beyond the first couple of episodes. It's been fucking memory hold. It's really quite shocking.
See, now that you've confessed to a crime on the podcast, you're going to get extraordinary rendition to Egypt by the spooks.
Well, here's the thing, actually. If a rights holder want to have a go at me for piracy, then they're going to have to prove I did it. So, fuck them. Anyway, because this is not a confession, I could just be making this up. This is a shitpost, right?
That's
anyway.
right. Nothing we say here is true.
It's all just a parody in Minecraft.
Yeah, parody redacted in Minecraft. So
anyway, we talked about Star Trek at some point.
Yeah, we were meant to be.
Here's the thing, though, like, Section 31, when it was initially introduced, which I believe, and tell me if I'm wrong, it was in Deep Space Nine. It didn't appear in The Next Generation, as far as I know. Okay, I'll take that as read.
I'm having a look now. I'm Googling this.
Oh god, I'm getting fact checked in real time here.
Yeah, that's right.
Am I on question time, or have I got news for you here? This feels like really serious journalism taking place.
No, it's a debate. Joe Biden will be out in a minute.
Yeah. Oh god, I can't. I want the Biden Trump debate.
It's going to be so good.
It's going to rule. I'm so excited.
It's it's strange that we keep talking about cops, but I mean, Kamala, that's
Oh yeah, she would be the head of Section 31 in the Star Trek universe
in a fucking heartbeat. Like, you know, it would be, hey Kamala, do you want the presidency, or do you want to run, like, you know, future CIA, and there'd just be a small thunderclap from her running over to Langley, like. Or Space Langley, then.
Yeah, so Section 31 appear in Deep Space Nine, one of the Star Trek films, Star Trek Discovery, and Enterprise. So they don't appear in The Next Generation.
Cool, right. So my understanding of Section 31, because, so background, I watched Deep Space Nine and some of The Next Generation because I'd come home from school and my dad would have it on the TV and it'd be on right then. And so I just, like, to keep him company, I started watching it with him, and so that's how I saw, like, Star Trek. I'm not a huge Trekkie or anything, or Trekker, or whatever the fuck they prefer to be called. And so, like, when I saw the stuff in Section 31, it seemed like they were doing quite an interesting, nuanced, like, criticism. Because my take on Deep Space Nine is it's a deconstruction of the Federation and going, well, what are all the things that aren't being addressed, right? Mm-hmm. And the character of the Doctor in Deep Space Nine, whose name I forget. It's like it's
Bashir.
Julian something.
Yeah, Julian Bashir.
Yeah, there you go. So like it comes out during the show that he has been genetically modified, which is apparently a big fucking no-no in like the future Star Trek. There's like no genetic modification of children.
Yeah, because that's how you get Khan.
Yeah, right. Apparently, you can't do anything like that because then it'll lead to blood superiority and all this kind of shit. But it turns out that he's estranged from his parents because he found this out. They did it to him when he was a kid. He gave no consent. It's because it's strongly implied that he was like slow before this was done to him. And he's estranged from them, and he shouldn't be a member of Starfleet because apparently it's illegal. You can get it done apparently, but you can't be a member of Starfleet if you've had it done. Whatever, right? Sure. And the resolution we come up with on that whole plot beat is that his father confesses to the crime and his father goes to prison for it on the condition that Julian's allowed to stay in Starfleet because he didn't do anything wrong, and that's like seen as being okay. And then after that, Section 31 came in, and the other thing about Julian is he's got all these James Bond that's his fantasy. He's playing on a holodeck as James Bond, like he's guns, girls, the whole shebang. Which is, okay, cute character beat, like this nerdy doctor wants to be like the leading man. But then they introduced Section 31, and Section 31 is like what James Bond would actually be. Like they're clearly up to no fucking good. And they're essentially like grooming him / like testing him for recruitment. And the show unambiguously shows them to be bad and shows like Julian's fantasies to be wrong. And it explicitly, like, it doesn't outright say it, but I think it's pretty well encoded that here's this guy who is like an Ubermensch. He has like been genetically modified. He is smarter and better than ordinary people. And he's got these fantasies of being this slick operator who's a cut above, that then when he's confronted with the reality of it, he's like, oh God, no, this is actually, these people are bad. These people are gross. What they're doing is not cool, and I'm not comfortable with it at all. And I always thought that was that was a good criticism, a good kind of takedown of the mythology of it. It's kind of going, look, if he went through with this, he'd basically be a fascist, and he knows it, so he doesn't, and he won't. And it's like one of the few points where I was like, okay, that's actually handled quite deftly, because they never come out and draw the whole, like, his superior genetics combined with this kind of social role and thing. They don't like, completely lay it on the trowel, but it's there. The problem is that, as with everything in DS9, the later Star Treks just looked at it and took it all at face value and went, oh yeah, Section 31, that's fucking great, that gets me hard. Let's do an entire fucking TV show about Section 31 and why they're such badasses. So it's no longer the thing that was put together as a criticism of something different has now become the thing itself, And I guess I think that's the issue with that kind of shit. And I think a lot of it goes back to DS9, which was a good show, but unfortunately, in this world we have today, the criticisms just get taken as being just statements of truth, of fact.
Well, before I go on to the next thought, just to call back to what you said at the start of that about what Star Trek fans like to be called, it's either Whovians or Star Wars nerds.
Oh, right, okay, yeah, makes sense, checks out.
But no, I was just going to say that Discovery, which is the one that had a big role for Section 31 and is doing a spin-off based on Section 31, wasn't that put together by the two dorks that did the Hawaii Five-0 reboot?
That wouldn't fucking surprise me.
It's the kind of hell knowledge that only you would have.
They're the guys that wrote the Abrams Star Treks as well.
Yeah.
Oh no.
I quite liked the first of the Abrams Star Treks.
The first one was fine. It was fine as for what it was. It was alright. Apart from the whole, like, weird fucking choice that's doomed any future, like, original kind of ideas continuation.
Yeah.
Like, it was a decent enough film on its own. The second one, no, absolute fucking trash.
Oh, no. Like, I mean, we alluded to it before, but it is dog shit.
My favourite part of Star Trek Into Darkness, is that the one?
Yeah.
My favourite part of that is where they phone original Spock to ask him how to beat the boss.
Yeah, that's great. I wish I could call a future version of myself to figure out how to solve my problems.
Yeah, it's just incredible. It's like this and these guys are two of the most like sought after writers in Hollywood. It's easy to see why.
I'll just get 70-year-old me on the phone and ask him what I can do to sort my life out real quick. Sorry, guys.
It's literally it's a reverse Back to the Future, isn't it? Like Spock comes back with an almanac on how to defeat all of his greatest enemies.
It's the one weird trick they don't want you to know.
Ever since you said it, I'm sorry, you know the musical Sting from Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? I've got that stuck in my head with like young Spock going, I'd like to use a lifeline, please. I'd like to call myself.
I was just genuinely in awe when I saw that moment. I was like, you had no way you have the brass fucking balls to put this in a film. I must be hallucinating. But no, it was real. So fair play to them, you know what I mean?
The bit in the film which made me want to walk out the cinema, and I didn't because I was with people and I'm like, I'm not going to be that dick. They had just the random tribbles, just out of nowhere. Just, McCoy, what you doing with that tribble? And it's like, what? Hang on, there's like fucking Whiplash here because, like, they're a fan favourite, sure, but aren't they a fan favourite because it was a silly, stupid thing, and also they were incredibly dangerous and hang on, why are you just randomly throwing it? Oh, you're just randomly doing animal testing on these things? What? Huh? Like, just.
But if they don't set up that he's found a way to like bring the tribbles back from the dead, then you'll be totally fooled by the idea that Kirk is the one that's going to die in the reactor this time. You know what I mean? That completely believable twist that surprised everyone. After the twist that like fucking Sherlock was actually Khan.
It's just, God. Do you know, right, actually, just apropos of nothing, the original Wrath of Khan movie is extremely good and holds up without, like, you can look at it as a movie without any of the Star Trek kind of stuff to it, and it's a good movie because it's a submarine movie in space with a bit of Shakespeare, right? And it's actually got a subtext. It's got a subtext about aging and death and renewal, and it's good. The only things where it falls down is you need to know who Kirk, Spock, and McCoy are going into it, which I think is fair enough because all of Western culture knows who they are after America did their thing.
But does it end with the Enterprise crashing into San Francisco?
God,
because,
you know, Jamie.
Because if you don't do super turbo space 9/11, did your film really happen?
You know, Jamie, I had actually blocked that out. Well, I'm not. This isn't a bit. I'm not doing this for comic effect. Genuinely, my brain had blocked that whole shit out. I just excised it, and you said it, and it's like a fucking dam has come down, and I'm like, oh yeah, they crash a spaceship the size of San Francisco into future San Francisco, and people on it survive. I just fucking hell, like
very realistic.
God, that's
physics.
so bad.
Very realistic physics.
It's just the incredibly wearying constant escalation of Hollywood stakes. Do you know what I mean? It's not enough for you to just have a reason to do something anymore. There's got to be like millions upon millions of lives on the line. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like obviously we're gonna have a while to go before we beat Avengers Endgame's what if half of everything in the universe died and then got better. But you know that's sort of like that should hold us for at least a couple of years before anyone feels the need to top that. But it is just that whole thing. It's like, well, it's not enough that like they just like they really don't like Benedict Cumberbatch, and who does really? And it's not enough that they've got reasons to want to stop his evil scheme and everything. Also, like they have to do 9/11 on a bigger scale because that's how you know it's important.
I was going to say unfairness, but it's not really unfairness at all. But it's on brand at this point because, like, Star Trek Enterprise started airing, like, in the month of September 11th.
Yeah.
Like, and by the end of that first season, they decided they were going to go for an entire plot arc where someone basically does 9/11 on Earth.
Oh, is that the one with, like, the future stuff and they wipe out?
Oh yeah, because it's temporal Cold War. Yeah, it gets fucking. It goes some weird ass places.
So weird. What a bizarre storyline.
It's one of those ones where the premise of it, like, that could actually be done quite well, but it was really fucking weirdly handled. But then it was fucking Berman and Braga, so.
Was it Frank Miller's Star Trek?
I mean, it felt like it was. I actually watched a little bit of it. Like, okay, so I tapped out during Voyager because, like, I was watching it with my dad, and it was more to humor him, and I was like, wow, this DS9 is actually quite good. So then Voyager starts, and that opinion rapidly shifted. But I stayed with it for a while, and eventually I gave up a little bit after 7 and 9 kind of came into it. Then they said, we're doing Enterprise, and it's different. My brother was talking about it and going, oh, it's really good. We don't have transporters. We're only used for, like, cargo, and, they're missing lots of the technology, and so it's not going to be the same technobabble, which I thought was really fucking funny in retrospect. And, like, so I tried watching some of it, and I'm like, this is bad. Like, okay, Quantum Leap guy is finally getting his time in the sun again, but that's about...
Yeah, I was literally about to bring up the fact that it was Sam from Quantum Leap.
Like, yeah, Jesus. But it just wasn't good. I mean, I later came back in, like, caught little bits and pieces. Like, you're wandering in and out of the living room as your elderly geriatric parent is watching like Star Trek and TV and stuff. So you can't, like, I caught quite a bit of NCIS as well, just from, like, latent exposure. That way you see something on the screen and you're like, what the fuck is this? And you just stand there and watch it for like 10 minutes and then shake your head and leave. That was my experience of Star Trek Enterprise, basically. Seeing shit like that, including the end of that episode where it's like, okay, we've taken him back to the future to save him from the time terrorists, and oh my god, the future's been destroyed, and it's like, what the fuck are they doing? Like, how does this, if you're time traveling when the change is made, are you immune to how does, what's the logic of this? And so I asked a friend who, like, really likes it, and he goes, oh, it's not really explained, really. I was like, oh, I see.
This is why I hate time travel. I hate time travel so much in so many stories. It just hurts my brain seeing people try to rationalize time travel in anything, because it means they bungle the story every time.
There's only one good use of time travel, and it's the Terminator use of time travel, where rules don't fucking matter. Things just happen. You just deal with it.
Yeah,
actually,
exactly.
I would argue that the better implementation of time travel is Looper, where, like, Bruce Willis just gets really angry when it's brought up and says not to mention it ever again.
Also known as the fucking Endgame implementation of time travel, where they start doing this whole thing and then they just go, don't think about it. And it's like, all right, okay, I guess this thing that the entire ending hinges on, we're just gonna roll with it and accept that it all makes sense, even when it doesn't.
To be fair, the Avengers Endgame time travel thing was the one that made the most sense of anything I've seen in any sort of media. So,
I'd hard disagree, man. Really hard disagree.
Just to bring it round again, Captain America did 9/11 by not intervening. I'm just putting that out there.
Well,
it's Prime Directive, man.
Yeah, Prime Directive.
Yeah, exactly. We've been talking about the Prime Directive.
See the zenith of liberal ideology. I'm proven right by Captain America. How fucking awful is that?
I think you'll find that my small C conservative federation has been proven right by Captain America.
God, don't start me on Captain America, otherwise I'm going to go completely mental.
Do you think they have this shit in, like okay, this is really, like, off topic, but in the Federation, do you think they have all this retro shit on, like, comic books and stuff? Which obviously they don't include for, like, licensing reasons or whatever, but you see all this shit about, like, they're all weirdly obsessed with Americana of, like, the 20th and 21st century.
I was just going to say, like, if anyone's got a collection of, like, 20th century comic books, it's that lad from Deep Space Nine. Which
lad?
The like, fucking captain of Deep Space Nine. I can't remember his name.
Yeah, with his fucking baseball.
Yeah.
He's, like, is Cisco?
It's Cisco, yeah. No, you're all forgetting about one Tom Paris.
Oh,
he was
yeah.
The pilot on Voyager who, like, made a point of being on the holodeck and building a car that he couldn't drive.
Can you not drive on the holodeck? Like?
No, I'm pretty sure he, like, replicated all the parts or some shit like that. He actually built a fucking car.
Like, the whole thing with that is that it's the whole, the joy is in building, it's the craft of the machine, not about the actually joyous experience part of it. No, it's all about the really nerding out on this Americana. Like, it's that fucking Joe Biden presidential advert where he's going, my dad's car.
I love the car. I love that ad so much. It's one of my favourite ones. It just makes me laugh every time so much.
A lot would be explained if Joe Biden thought he was on the holodeck.
Oh my god!
That's why he is the way he is.
That's my new favourite theory now.
But no, I mean, when you said he's built a car that he can't drive, my first thought was they never actually got around to programming like vehicle physics into the holodeck because everyone just uses it for wanking.
They just have the Euro Truck Simulator physics because they never bothered updating it.
Yeah,
they've got strangely detailed physics on like boob jiggle etc. But when it comes to
it's like it's fully 3D photorealistic, and you can disengage the safety protocols if you need to kill Borg with a Tommy gun. But when you get in a car and drive somewhere, it's like Outrun.
It's the ultimate weeb accessory, the holodeck.
It very much is.
Oh, man.
Just have to bring in one of those steering wheels and pedals set from Thrustmaster or something.
Oh.
Do you think the holodeck was available in one of those old sit-down cabinets you used to get in arcades in the 80s?
I mean, that's at the back of all the Star Trek Bond stores, surely.
I'm gonna pull back to Enterprise a little bit, and the 9/11 stuff, because like Star Trek it becomes post 9/11, and
yes, it does,
and it very much remains immediately post 9/11 throughout.
Yep.
But Enterprise itself it's really fucking weird in the kind of morality politics stuff that it does. And I've got an episode that I did a rewatch of all, like through lockdown, I just rewatched all the Star Treks, and I got it to Enterprise, and I hadn't actually ever sat and watched all of it before. And I thought, I've fucking done the rest of them, I'll do this one as well, fuck it. And I came across an episode that just left me like fucking full on gobsmacked at like, how did this happen? And what I'm just going to blitz through the plot of it from Wikipedia, because I can't tell fucking stories and I'll miss something, so I'll just go through this just now.
Alright, we're here for it, let's go.
Right, so while exploring a hypergiant star, the Enterprise makes first contact with an advanced and very friendly alien race known as the Visians. The two Starship crews are happy to intermingle. Commander Tucker, who's the engineer, becomes intrigued when he meets a Visian couple in the mess hall, accompanied by a third member of their race, and learns that the being, which has no name, is a cogenitor, a third gender in Visian biology. Cogenitors are needed to complete reproduction. They don't genetically contribute to the offspring, but they supply an enzyme required for fertilisation. And they only constitute 3% of the population, so Visians must apply to have a cogenitor assigned to them when they intend to conceive a child. Cogenitors are considered mentally deficient and are not citizens on equal terms with men and women. Now, so far, so good. That sounds like a really fucking interesting little plot to explore, doesn't it?
I mean, that sounds like something you would find on DeviantArt, like, you know what I mean?
Oh, God.
Supply an enzyme required for procreation.
Isn't that all of the Sonic fan art described perfectly?
Yeah.
So yeah, the Sonic Tails Knuckles triad now makes perfect fucking sense.
We solved it. We solved DeviantArt, everyone. We can go home.
For real, do you know, I can see where they got that from. That is from a culture novel. It's from the Player of Games.
Yep.
And what they've done is they've reversed
the supplier of enzymes.
Yeah. No. In the Player of Games, they have an alien race where they have people who do the kind of incubation, the people who provide like the semen, and then like one in between them who provide the eggs, essentially. So it's like, and that one in the middle is the dominant sex because they can dominate, like no reproduction can happen without their say-so, essentially. And so it's like he does some interesting things with it. So clearly, given the publication time, etc., they must have read this and thought, oh, this could be interesting, and done something with it. So carry on, David.
Right. Meanwhile, elsewhere on the ship, Lieutenant Reed finds himself the romantic focus of a female Visian crew member, the tactical officer. Captain Archer bonds with the alien captain while on a 3-day reconnaissance of the star in a small probe. Tucker, however, becomes increasingly intent on the rights of the cogenitor and learns with the help of the Doctor that they are actually equally intelligent. On the alien vessel, without the couple's knowledge, Tucker secretly encourages the cogenitor to learn to read while building a friendship with them. Despite having a near total lack of education available, they are an insatiable learner. Soon learning the importance of names, they then ask to be called Charles, which is Commander Tucker's own first name. Charles soon realises that future life in Visian society would be unfulfilling. They then leave and request political asylum on the Enterprise. Archer returns to find himself in the middle of a first contact diplomatic crisis, with the Visians confused and defensive at Tucker's interference in their traditions. Tucker appeals to Archer's sense of justice, but he sides with the Visians. With the cogenitor returned, the Visians hope good relations with the humans can continue. Later communications, however, reveal that the now despondent Charles has committed suicide, thereby delaying the birth of the Visean's child and straining the relations between the two species. Archer then summons Tucker and severely reprimands him for his lack of professionalism and judgment.
So,
End episode.
So Tucker goes on, he like leaves the series, he quits, he's like, no, I'm working for an arsehole in an organisation of monsters, and he quits, and there's a spin-off show about him like fighting for, reform of the Fed, like, any of that? No.
There's a spin-off show where he opens like his own little store, and you just picture like a little greengrocer's, but the sign says like Tucker and Sons Enzyme Supplier.
Yeah, it just ends. The episode ends right there. He looks really sad, and that's it. That's the end of the episode. The lesson was, don't help people.
Fucking Christ. Like, I genuinely can't wrap my head around why you think that's... I mean, okay, I suppose I can, because if you're a massive fucking lib, then that seems like a reasonable thing to do. Like, what about unintended consequences? You wanted to give everyone civil rights, but look, now we've got problems. Now we've got riots and shit. Like, it's...
Yeah. I think the intent of it was more on the side of Archer, to try and build up, because it's part of the plot arc at this point. Like, they're away in space, they've never been in before, to track down the people who built the weapon that 9/11'd Earth. And they're desperate, and they're getting more and more desperate for any help they can get. And Archer's like insistent on this episode that this all needs to go really well, because it doesn't say that in the synopsis there, but the Viseans are like years and years ahead of any Earth ship. So they're like really hopeful they can get some new technology off them and stuff like that. And I don't know if it's supposed to be like showing the desperation they're at, that they're now starting to like sacrifice for that. But all it does is just leave everyone involved, apart from Tucker, looking like a complete cunt.
It's kind of like the whole let's suck up to these Viseans so we can get the oil from their country and ignore their human rights abuses at the same time, kind of.
Yeah, it very much is that, yeah.
It's space Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, shit. I hadn't even jumped out. I mean, I knew that something was wrong with it in a very specific way, but I hadn't considered, it's exactly that. It's just Middle Eastern, Western foreign policy.
Yeah, it's kind of like in Deep Space Nine, because when I first started watching that with my dad, I was like, there's something weird with these Bajorans. Then it clicked, oh, right, I see. They're meant to be like the Jewish diaspora almost, because they're Israel essentially, post the whole Cardassians who are the Nazis invading. That's what they're going for. But then they seemed to change their mind on this, and they made them Tibetan instead, essentially. And there was like a really weird kind of shift in tone as that kind of clunked back into its new position. Which was, I remember at the time I was like, well, this is really weird, because it feels like the Ferengi are being set up as an incredibly like anti-Semitic caricature. And I wasn't like particularly, politically and, inclined at the time. Like, I wasn't, aware on these things, but even I was kind of going, so they've got big ears and they're incredibly greedy and they're all merchants and their religion and society is all about money. This sounds a bit close to...
Yeah.
Like,
sounds a bit close to J.K. Rowling's banking goblins.
Yeah.
That's, oh wait, the dates don't work out for her to be inspired by that, I don't think. Or maybe they do.
No, they do, because the Ferengi show up in the Next Generation, so the Ferengi's like definitely before Harry Potter.
Alright, well there you go. I think we may have solved that mystery.
That would be quite funny. So I'm just imagining now J.K. Rowling, as all the tweets are coming in going, oh, you made all these, goblin bankers, like anti-Semitic tropes. She's sitting there going, it wasn't me, I was just ripping off this other thing, but I can't say that now, can I? Fuck!
Yeah, I know what you're saying with that, but it all comes back to what you were saying about how Deep Space Nine is really just an analysis of the Federation. And all of the non-Federation characters are all like really supposed to represent like human traits that don't exist in space future.
I suppose so. Like, I'm reminded, I saw this clip recently, because I've done a little bit like cursory kind of reminding myself of this episode, and I saw a clip of him and Quark having a drink together, where Quark gives him root beer.
Oh, it's the Federation one.
Yeah.
They have to be saved by the Federation.
Yeah, and like, that was very interesting to watch, because it was almost like it felt kind of weird tonally, because they were giving comments on the way the Federation is, which didn't actually track with the criticisms the show itself was making of the Federation. It was very strange, but very well acted. Like, I enjoyed it as like a little character moment thing when I watched it. Garrick goes into Quark's bar and he asks for like some drink, and Quark goes on the house.
He gives him the whole bottle because only Cardassians drink it.
And like the way things are going, he's never going to have any other Cardassian customers. And he's got a whole cellar full of it. And so this gets them talking, and so Quark says, you need to try this, and gives him root beer. And so he tries it, and he's like, ugh. And Quark's like, the thing is, it's so cloying and sweet, but you drink enough of it, you start to like it.
Then it's Section 31.
Yeah, next thing you know, you're rooting for the destruction of your own homeworld.
Man. I don't know, it's like, I do think that a lot of the problems with modern Star Trek, because, like, okay, full disclosure, I have not watched Discovery. I'm not the slightest bit fucking interested in watching Discovery. I've seen the trailer, and like 5 seconds of that trailer, much like with Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, just a short look at the trailer.
Oh, was there fucking lava in it?
I mean, there might as well have been, to be perfectly fucking frank with you. Like, and here's the thing, like, Star Trek gets a pass for a lot of physics stuff, because it's always been space wizardry, right? But still, what's different in this one is they've just totally disregarded, by the looks of it and from everything I've heard since, we've disregarded all the things that made Star Trek actually interesting, which is that it's a character drama wedded to a sociological drama. And it's a slow sociological drama, and it's often a bit kind of didactic, black and white in places, and sometimes they're just a bit fucking crazy, frankly. But, I mean, it is at least some kind of, like, drama where there's, like, questions and quandaries, etc. That seems to be right out the fucking window. And, like, Picard, same sort of fucking thing. And it's all because it's become obsessed with a superficial aesthetic rather than with the substance of the thing. And I think that comes from them basically looking at Deep Space Nine and going, oh, it's the most well-regarded one. It's gritty and dark, and, you know, we should take that aesthetic and make that's what Trek should become, not realizing that the darkness came from, like, an actual careful consideration.
It's that thing from Demolition Man, where all restaurants are Taco Bell. Do you know what I mean? You want to bring back Star Trek because a lot of people really like Star Trek, but you know, also you don't want to just do Star Trek because a lot of people didn't like Star Trek, so you try to do Star Trek, but you try to make it more like just of a modern sort of show where it's superficially Star Trek, but, like, you know, it has to be more like just like a Tom Clancy thing or something. You know what I mean? Like Discovery, for example, gets better in the second season, but that's a pretty low bar to clear, because I think the first episode of season 1 of Discovery has them doing war crimes.
Yes.
Yeah,
and then it's just never mentioned again.
Just casually, like, sweep it under the rug. Oh, I wonder what that reminds me of.
They do a clear war crime, and you think, well, that's going to come back again, isn't it? Because, like, what about this war crime they did? That's very unfair. No, they just don't mention it. It's just cool.
Like, see, when I was watching Voyager, because, like I said, I watched the first bit of Voyager, the first episode of that has them getting that, God, is Paris, was it you said earlier?
Yeah.
He is in a prison. He's been locked up by the Federation in, like, Norwegian Prison Plus, essentially.
He's in New Zealand, which is a prison in the Star Trek universe.
Oh, yeah, it is. It's a Federation penal colony, isn't it?
Yeah.
Wow, like... Okay, yeah, sure, all right, Star Trek, whatever. Yeah, they have him. He's in there because he formerly was a member of this, like, rebellion group kind of thing, and he's got actual political differences to the Federation. And Janeway comes to get him because she's like, "Look, we need to track these people down. They're going to get a lot of people killed. Blah blah. I want you to come and be my, like, you know, person to help me out." And he's like, "Well, why would you? I'm a criminal and I'm formally associated with him." And she's like, "Well, I believe in redemption. And all I can do is give you the, you know, like," and I was watching this going, this looks interesting. This looks like we're going to have a character who's actually got an alternate perspective on shit, and who doesn't always play by it. Like, this could be an interesting, and we don't fucking do anything with it. It's like, it is barely brought up, and when it is brought up, it's brought up in a very black and white, oh, you know, I was a criminal, kind of, I was a bad one, but now I'm reformed kind of way. It's just, it's complete garbage.
Yeah,
And-
Voyager's the ultimate expression of wasted potential of a story idea.
To be honest, like, Voyager is Star Trek descending into fascism in real time, right alongside America. Voyager is that, because I mean, you see it straight away. Like, the American neurosis about everything post 9/11 is reflected in the character of Janeway and how she is so inconsistently written because 3 different writers were warring over who she should be, and so she ends up being just this fascist psychopath.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, yeah, Kate Mulgrew specifically just started to play her as completely unhinged because she had no idea what the character was.
That's a great solution to the bad writing problem. Just play your character
Yeah.
like them, they're unhinged, and see what happens.
Yeah, and I mean, if you want to sort of discuss what Voyager is, it's live action Ulysses 31. I guess I'm the only person here who remembers Ulysses 31. Then.
You might be, yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, Jamie, I'm feeling like a fetus all of a sudden.
It was a French anime in the 80s, and it was basically a retelling of like Ulysses, but in the future on a spaceship.
So I'm going to look that up real quick.
This is a deep fucking cut, I've got to say. I'll be honest, I never saw you as the sort of person who'd be into anime, Jamie.
Oh my god, the art style. I am so into the art style, and one of the characters looks like every single 80s hair metal front man. Oh.
Okay, fuck the podcast.
I'm putting a picture in. I'm putting a picture in. Hold on. What the hell is this?
Oh my god.
It's every hair metal front man in history talking to some child and some blue alien child.
Well, David, I think we've got the logo for this episode of the podcast. To be perfectly honest.
I mean, if
this is too good not to share.
If you tanned the guy's hair color black, it would basically look like me. So,
I feel a Photoshop challenge coming.
Oh no, there's already a Photoshop of me at the Cadaver Synod. So,
that is metal. That is totally metal.
Yeah. I was trying Tony Blair, I think, was how it was going.
He's already got the Cadaver Rictus Grim, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Oh, if only we could try Tony Blair.
Oh, can we get someone to Section 31 Tony Blair?
No, you can't get someone to Section 31 in, because I guarantee you, within like a week, he'd be like running it or something like
Him
that.
and Kamala, tag team, the winning team. Biden should step aside for Tony Blair. That's the hot take now.
Yeah, within a week of taking over Section 31, Tony Blair's got them all working on the internet time zone.
The subspace time zone, surely.
The subspace time
Oh my god.
Oh, fucking hell. Oh.
I'm just thinking, this show is developing lore. We've now got, I'm the one who's really hot about lava. Jamie is into the internet time zone. What's David's thing?
Enzyme supplier.
Oh god. That's going to be fan art waiting to happen.
Oh, Christ.
Absolutely. Right, do we have some sort of conclusion about Star Trek and or Ulysses 31 then?
Well, I'm going to watch Ulysses 31, so that's a whole thing.
It's got a really catchy theme tune.
Oh yes, that's my favourite thing about animes, is when they have a catchy theme tune.
Hang on a minute, wasn't there a Star Trek cartoon?
Yes.
Yeah.
There was an animated series, yeah. In fact, there's now 2 animated series.
Oh,
Because there's a new one that I think's just Rick and Morty, but Starfleet.
Yeah. It's
yeah.
the Rick and Morty art style, kinda, because it's the cheapest one to
Yeah.
animate.
And the humour too. I've seen the trailer for that, actually. This is another thing that I apparently repressed in like a huge state to get away from, because it was bad. I
haven't
really
checked out yet.
bad.
I will. I will give it a chance. I've learned to not base the trailer on like actually being representative of the final product, so I'll give it a go. But yeah, to summarise, the best Star Trek series is The Orville.
So I've not actually seen The Orville. Is it actually good as Star Trek or what?
It is very much the Next Generation, but with a kind of now budget, but more up to date. It feels more relevant to now.
Right, but it has Seth MacFarlane in, doesn't it?
It does have Seth MacFarlane in, but it is absolutely a labour of love from Seth MacFarlane, because he fucking loves The Next Generation, and it shows. It really does show. I genuinely think it's a really good show.
But it is fronted by America's James Corden, so.
I mean, if he gets on your tits that much, then yeah, I mean, give it a pass. But like, I don't particularly mind. Like, he's not the worst. Like, I would not put him on the same fucking peg as James Corden. James Corden is now America's James Corden.
That's true.
We don't want him back under any circumstances.
No.
Do not send him back.
Absolutely not. Like, no, they sent Piers Morgan back, and that frankly that was the final straw.
They sent Piers Morgan back so that Momentum could retweet him. That's what.
I can tolerate a lot of what America's getting up to in the last couple of centuries, but not sending Piers Morgan back, that just crossed the line.
That's it.
He didn't go willingly. They had to extraordinarily rendition him back to us
via Egypt. But yeah, no, the Orville is good Star Trek. It genuinely is, and I would give an honest recommendation of it.
All right, for those of you listening who are into Star Trek, check out the Orville.
Yeah.
Apparently,
yeah.
I don't know. Do you think Star Trek will ever actually be good
No.
again? You know what? I shouldn't have asked that because we're turning into fucking red letter media. That's what this episode basically is. But
no, everything, it's got potential. Like the last film that they made, Beyond, that was actually pretty decent.
Beyond is really good.
Like, I mean, the Orville itself, although it's not Star Trek, shows that you can make good Star Trek. Like, it's doable.
What's really good about Beyond is that it's very, like, it feels very true to the sort of like the original Star Trek vibe. It's much less trying to be, what if like everyone in the universe was about to die and only like by doing war crimes could you save them, than like some other efforts recently.
Yeah.
But also it really, really, really angered a lot of like nerds by having a bit with like where they blow up all the enemy drones by like jamming the signal by playing the Beastie Boys at them.
Oh, that rules. What?
Yeah, that was genuinely the most Star Trek thing that's ever happened. That where they're like, oh,
Yeah.
if we play the Beastie Boys through the Jeffries tubes, it'll like crash all the drones. Do you know what I mean?
So was it Shambhala they were playing, or was it their one song that everyone took dead at face value?
It was the one song.
Of course it was. Of course.
But yeah, I mean that made a lot of humorless nerds incredibly angry, which was just the perfect way to end the film. I thought, you know what I mean? It was.
Yeah, we should more creative decisions should be made with the intent of getting nerds angry, I think.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, isn't that basically what we do with this podcast?
How dare you?
Well, Star Trek Beyond, like the Orville, like it was a large labour of love from Simon Pegg, who really fucking loves Star Trek.
Yeah. Simon Pegg's pretty good. Right, so here's a question. Has Simon Pegg ever, apart from Into Darkness, has he ever been involved in a film project that's just been completely bad?
Didn't he play Toby Young in a film?
Yes. Oh my god, what?
Yes, he did.
Sorry, what?
Wait, what fucking
Someone tell me
record
about
scratch
that.
here?
Yeah.
How did I not hear about it?
Have you not listened to our Toby Young episode?
Probably not. Or
I totally have. I absolutely listened to the Toby Young episode. I listen to every episode of this podcast that goes out, not just the ones I'm on. Absolutely, yes. I just don't remember.
The film's called How to Lose Friends and Alienate People, and it's based on the Toby Young book of the same, and Simon Pegg plays the not Toby Young character.
Oh my god, I need to watch this film.
And a dog commits suicide, I believe.
Oh my god, what?
Yeah.
Like a dog throws itself out of a skyscraper window rather than be around the Toby Young analog. So it's an incredibly realistic film.
I mean, to be fair, dogs don't generally want to be around Tories anyway, is my understanding, so...
Is it a reconstructed documentary with a soundtrack by Trent Reznor? Because that does sound very fucking realistic.
Oh, Adam Curtis documentary on Toby Young when?
He thought he knew how to make friends and influence people. But it wasn't that. 1,000 miles away, in America, a group of men in a boardroom read his book. They were repulsed. You could totally do like an Adam Curtis documentary of Toby Young.
I mean, to be honest, I'd watch an Adam Curtis documentary on anything.
I was going to say you could do an Adam Curtis documentary on just about anything, really. Just get a bunch of like found footage and just go over the top of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Put some like music on that people haven't thought about for years. License to print money, isn't it?
The thing that annoys me about Adam Curtis is he's got very similar taste in music to me at points. So he's like, whenever I hear Adam Curtis like stuff, I'm like, shit, I know that track, I know that track, I know that track, I know that track. Even like the obscure kind of was a B-side on a Nine Inch Nails album like years ago, or was like, was by Burial or something like that. I'm like, yeah, I know that fucking track too. It's like he's inside my head, which is really kind of annoying. And then it's even worse when I came on this podcast, people said, oh, you sound a bit like Adam Curtis. I'm like, fuck, great, fantastic.
You can do the delivery, lean into it, fuck it. Why not? Yeah. So, shall we maybe look towards wrapping this up then, seeing as we seem to have... I wouldn't say we've exhausted the well, I think we've kind of touched on it enough.
Wandered away from the fucking well while flipping at the bird.
It's too fucking hot. It's too hot. None of us have like the root enthusiasm here because we're all just going, fuck me, I want it to be cold.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here with a fan blasting me and I'm still like, my back is caked in sweat as I'm sitting in this chair. Edit this bit out, David, right?
Leave it in.
Yeah. I mean,
people deserve
James knows full well that following anything with this, edit this bit out guarantees it's being left in.
I have fallen victim of this myself.
I have access, David, to all the bits that you cut from previous episodes because of Liable, etc. I invite you, in the spirit of Star Trek, to consider your next move very carefully.
Was that
Captain.
from when?
The only exception to the like it stays in rule is if Rob said it, then it definitely comes out.
Oh, okay, that's harsh, but that also means this bit won't be done because then Rob would hear it. So I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's it. It does have to stay in. But I mean, when you're going to just say is a nonce and fucks dogs, like, yeah, I'm taking that out.
I was very careful not to say that. I want to be clear.
Whatever happened to our like angel child Rob we had at the start of the podcast, where he was very professional and he hardly ever accused anyone of visiting Little St. James?
You did, Jamie. The same fucking thing that happened to me. You did. You're a bad influence. I came on for the episode where we're doing education on trans rights and trans issues, and I'm very serious. I'm doing my research. I'm careful, and I wanted to make sure I got it right, and cut forward however many fucking episodes it's been, and I'm making jokes to noise up David because he'll have to spend time editing them out. Like, bad influence, Jamie.
I mean, I don't see it myself, but okay.
Oh, right. Well, I think we'll leave it there.
Yeah. Star Trek, A Land of Contrasts.
That's right.
Yes, very much so. Fascist, liberal, small c conservative, communist utopia, all at once.
It's not a communist utopia.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, I know it's not. I know it's not. There was one hot take buried within that, and it was the fact that it was communist.
Here's the thing. They genuinely, like, the whole communist thing, I think it's just because it's post-scarcity and they don't have money.
Yep.
That's it. That's all it takes to be communist, apparently.
When you understand what communism is, clearly.
Yeah.
I mean, have the Americans ever understood what communism is?
Well, no, because they thought Barack Obama was a communist, didn't they?
Yeah.
Earlier on, I heard that Kamala Harris was a Marxist.
Oh, I wish she was a Marxist. That would rule.
Like, it really is the case. It's so cursed. You hear them talking about, oh yeah, Kamala Harris is a phony. She's secretly a Marxist planning to... And you're like, I fucking wish. Please. Let's have these
Please,
people.
Kamala Harris, if you're listening to this, be a secret Marxist.
Do you know what we need? We need Star Trek technology to pop open a fucking wormhole to the alternate nega dimension so we can get Kamala Harris in a goatee wearing a Shea shirt to lead the revolution on the American continent, right? We need like evil Joe Biden, right, to come in equally confused, but
Isn't
having to
evil
put
Joe
landmines
Biden
up
the
against
Joe
the
Biden
wall.
we have, though? Isn't that who evil Joe Biden is?
Yeah, he came through a wormhole, shaved the goatee so that no one would clock him, and he's just been wreaking havoc.
Oh god, I'm now picturing they've got two Joe Bidens here. One of them, they're making him film stuff with his dad's car and shit like that, and he's like, I'm gonna fix things, and he doesn't realize he's on a holodeck. Whereas the other Biden, the Biden who's actually like standing for office, he's just like, oh, I just need to play myself up as a doddering old fool. And what is it he says? He says, oh, come on, man. Yeah, I'll say that. I'll just,
There are two Joe Bidens. One only tells the truth. The other one only talks about his leg hair.
Oh my god.
There are two Joe Bidens warring inside you. The one that wins is the one you vote for.
Oh, fuck, right, okay, the heat's clearly getting to us. Sinan, thank you very much for coming on. Do you want to plug your stream?
So I stream 3 times a week usually. Mondays 6 to 9, Fridays 6 to 9, and Mondays... sorry, not Mondays, God. The heat's killing me. Sundays 1 to 4, all PM on those ones. And the Twitch it's Twitch, and it's SK the Crusader, all spelled out. And also follow me on Twitter, @the Sinan Kose. And that's it. And thanks for having me on, guys. I really enjoyed it.
Oh, yeah. It's been fun.
Yeah, it's been great having you on, man.
We'll have to do this some other time when we're not all brain dead.
Yeah, please. In the winter, just hit me up, and then we'll do another one.
Star Trek 2 Into Darkness.
Absolutely. I'm up for that.
Right, yeah. Thanks very much for coming on, Sinan. Check out the streams, folks. You follow us at PraxisCast on Twitter as well. Tell your friends, tell people who aren't your friends. Probably inflict it on people who aren't your friends, to be honest. And we will see you again soon.
And if you're wondering what the holodeck would look like under current technology, try out Second Life. Okay, we're done.
Good night, folks.
Checks out.